Hey guys, a couple of people have been cool enough to drop by the stream, so if you like my YouTube channel, swing by the stream and just drop a follow, man. I stream basically every day after work. I'm in the northern United States, so I think it's Eastern time. So I stream usually from 6:30 to like 11 or something like that every night recently. So, you know, stop by, drop a follow. If you want to hang out with me and the boys, we just kind of chill and chat. If you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer them. This game was kind of a cool game, man, and I'm excited to post it. I hope you guys can learn a lot from it. Opening up in these shops, we're just gonna buy everything, right? We're not gonna stress it too much. The game auto plays a lot of our units as in putting them out on the board. But a lot of people keep asking me questions about how to improve, and a big part of it just playing flexible, right? You don't want to railroad yourself early and just make bad items or anything like that. And you kind of want to think about the augments that you're going to be getting along the way, right? So, let's say you were preparing for, like, AFK, right? You don't want to make the strongest board you possibly could, so you could capitalize off AFK, let's say. That's an example of coming into a 2-1 augment. But for the most part, we're just going to be buying pairs. And here's the whole thing is, you guys need to learn how to pivot, and pivoting isn't always just putting legendaries out on your board, right? Pivoting is making, like, an okay strong board, like, for the early game, and slowly pivoting out of it. And I beat you to it, beat you guys to it this time. I actually was able to pause in time to be able to record this. But when it comes into the augments, right, we're going to be choosing between these selected ones here, and we're going to see what's going on. So we have Pandora's items. This is really Gigabyss, especially on 2-1, because you get the rest of the game to build your items on what you might like. You have Sure Shot Heart. This is always a goated move. This means you know what you're going for the whole game, and you know you're going to have Giga scaling, but I don't really have a Sure Shot opener. I don't have any Ashes or Sivers or anything like that, so we're not going to go this. And this railroads you really early in the game, right? Titans, you can always take this. This is always good. So I wouldn't refresh this. These three are really good for 2-1, and me personally don't want to waste your refresh. I will always take Pandora's item on 2-1 because I know I can make Gigabyss items for my main tank, Gigabyss items for my 1 damage dealer, and then I can make good items for my secondary carry, right? And anything left over, we can just make into Thieves' Gloves, right? So this is what we're going to end up taking. And the cool part about it is, usually if you get Pandora's Bench, your tank items are always going to be Warmogs, Declaw, and Bramble. There might be cases where you go Redemption or something like that, right? But that's usually always going to be your main tank's items. Here's the whole thing. You're also going to have to kill components. You can't just sit on this many components, right? So we're going to kill the Warmogs because we know we want that. And Hodge is just always a good item. It gives healing, it gives 80, it gives AP, and it gives crit chance. So this will always just be a good item slot for a unit. And we don't get extremely weak. So what we're going to do here is, if you guys don't know how Pandora's Bench works, is whenever you leave an item on the bench, it's going to reroll after a combat or something like that, right? So if you like the component, let's say, what you can do is you can buy a 1-star unit that you don't care about, put that unit on your bench and slap the component on it to hold that component, so you don't have to let it keep refreshing past. But until then, you just leave the component out on your bench and you keep letting it reroll until you what you want. So the first thing we're always going to build is the tank items. So we're going to be looking for like Bramble and Declaw components here. And I forgot to grab the orb here, right? But we're just going to kill this item. Giant Slayer is another good item. We're not getting a whole lot of value out of Pandora's, don't get me wrong, but I'm also not trying to sit out here with the weakest board on Earth. And at this point, as you can see, I'm not going that Renegade's Reroll Lucian or anything. I know I'm going to want to pivot out of this board, and this board looks like it really sucks, doesn't it? And you have to just start becoming really comfortable with just not having good boards in the early game. But trying to make the best you can, whether it's like Brawler Synergy, or defender synergy or something like that. You gotta try to make the best, like, frontline, backline board you can in the early game. We already know on 2-5 we're gonna level up, and on 3-2 we are, but until then we're gonna just try to make interest and kill as much of the board as we can, right? And the reason why Hodge and Giant Slayer are super good is no matter what, usually you build your comp around a 4 cost, right? And me putting Hodge, Giant Slayer, it goes good on Samira, it goes good on Twisted Fate, it goes good on Belveth. All of these units are going to use these items, and you're not railroading yourself. You're flexible to whatever 2-star 4 cost you hit. And with these tank items, you can just always slam these as well. Sorry about that, guys. I forgot that it was on 1x speed. We're gonna get the new boot goof in here, though. I'm sorry about that. I haven't made a video in a day, so it wasn't on the cranium. I was just so excited to talk to you guys that I didn't even think about it. So we're just gonna be looking for tank item components, right? Blitzcrank, people have joked about Blitzcrank being a 5 cost unit, but he really is. The only thing you really need on Blitzcrank to make him tanky is HP, and Warmogs and Brawler kind of does that in itself. Because he takes percentage reduction damage. So if you have a Warmogs on him, and he takes 26% reduced damage with the Brawler, and that means for his whole HP pool, he's just going to take 26%. Or whatever it is, whatever his percentage is. We're never going to make gargoyles when we have Pandora's Bench. It's a shitty item. And at this point, I wanted Morgana out on the board because no matter what, when you're pivoting, because we're not playing quick draw, it sucks. No matter when you're pivoting, having just threat units is good. You know, Morgana's always decent. Rammus is just always going to be decent. And if you really have to, you can put these tank items on Rammus. Because we're not hitting the Blitz 2. If we hit the Blitz 2, the Blitz would just be staying out on the board the whole game. We might later on, but we might just find a better option. And as you can see, we found the Aatrox. So we're going to insta-sell the Blitz, and we're just going to start slamming the Gigabis items on him. Because Aatrox is probably one of the better... He's basically Zac from the past set, but a little bit better, in my opinion. Because the Aatrox actually does damage, whereas the Zac didn't. The Zac just lived forever, but he had a cool interaction where he would just retaunt. It feels bad that we found the Blitzcrank now. But we're just going to be making gold interest, and on 3-2 we're going to be leveling up. I think I said screw here and didn't level up. Yeah. So 3-2 we're going to level up, and then we're going to be looking to get in a second Kaisa. And this is a cool interaction that you guys probably don't know about. If you have 2 tier 1 Kaisas on the board, they finish each other's passive procs. Does that make sense? So let's say it takes 4 procs for Kaisas, like, you know, passive damage to pop. If you have 2 Kaisas and they're autoing the one unit. Oh, I almost was fast enough this time. I'll finish that thought here in a second. So let's say you have 2 Kaisas and they're autoing the same unit, and it takes 4 procs. One would auto, that counts as 1. The other one would auto, that counts as 2. So they insta, like, gib 1 unit. They, like, percentage health proc down 1 unit together. So they're passive stack, which is cool. We already have 1 Aatrox, and we see Dark in a simulation. So we're going to grab this Aatrox. And because I think this is, like, the tank variant, this ability basically allows you to get a death stance on your whole board. And we're not going to grab the orb right away, right? Because we talked about this before. If you don't touch the orb, you're leaving a higher percentage chance of hitting that unit because there's a finite amount of units in TFT. And when you take the orb, you're taking 1 more out of the pool. And we're really just hoping that this component turns into a Negatron cloak. And one thing I've really found this set, unless you're going reroll, you really don't want to go for the lower tier hero augments. You're really butchering yourself, man. I made the mistake of like going like a 3-cost hero augment. It's so bad. Because the 4-cost hero augments are so broken. The reason why I moved my Kai'Sas apart, even though they would laser down one unit if I have them stacked, is reversing spell slingers here with like Lux AoE and Nico AoE. And if we stacked our units together here, this Kai'Sa would be dead and we would have lost this combat. So this is an example of how positioning is broken and it keeps your win streak going. We're just going to be looking for a Negatron Cloak and grabbing this Rammus here if we can. And we're probably going to roll down on here on 3-5, and the reason for this is right now we're win streaking. If you roll down here on 3-5, we can power spike really hard. I don't know if we do. I wouldn't blame you if you do it here. But it's a lot of gold, man. We'd be like 20 gold, and we're praying to hit an Aatrox with 20 gold. I doubt it. So we're probably going to roll down on 4-1 then. And we're just chilling, man. And we lost our streak, so we're not stressing it. We're just chilling. The biggest thing is keeping your gold interest high. We're at 90 HP. We know that there's only roughly 8 levels in the game. There's no point in us butchering our whole economy. What we do is we just use our gold interest to push us forward into the game and pump levels. So we can hit 2-star Aatrox, make him with Declaw, so he has Gigabus items. And at this point, I was thinking in my head, I'm not really hitting a whole lot of lines. This might be a game to try out threats, man. I really fell in love with threats last set. And in my opinion, this set, threats just feel really lackluster compared to a lot of the other comps. So this was like the first game where I really felt like I had an opener to be able to play threats. And I was going to try to take it, especially being able to have these items. And I wanted to roll here to hit 1 Aatrox. So we're just buying all the purple units. And Lucian's sucking, so we're looking for like Bel'Veth as well. And I decided to fully play threats this game at this point. We did a little 4-1 roll down. And okay. So, at this point in the game, we decided to go threats, right? And this comes with just game knowledge. Okay, you guys aren't gonna like be able to see a guide and it tell you what to go, right? So we don't have anti-heal, so Sunfire board here would be good. Okay, we really don't need phony frontline. We already have infinite frontline. But what I'm gonna end up taking here is Jeweled Lotus, and I'll tell you why. For one, threats, in my opinion, lack damage a lot. And this will boost all of their damage, but one of the champions that has the coolest interaction with Jeweled Lotus in the entire game is Aurelion Sol. Because, and if I'm wrong, you guys let me know in the comments section, but each one of Aurelion Sol's comets, because he calls down multiple comets, each have a chance to critically strike, which allows him to do a shitload of damage. So in the case of going threats, in my opinion, Jeweled Lotus is probably one of the S tier augments for the comp. And I really just want to hit this Aatrox. That's why we're rolling this deep on 7. And we hit Gigabus items on Aatrox now, so we're chilling. And we're going to slam this bow on Bel'Veth, not because we're going to go rapid fire cannon, but because we really need Last Whisper. Bel'Veth hits like a wet napkin as is, and it feels like this set more than ever, Defender is really prevalent. And you can already see it, man. When Aurelion Sol casts, the board just starts getting like giga chunked. So basically with this augment from, I could be wrong about Aatrox, or maybe I didn't read his augment right, but Bel'Veth basically has just a Death's Dance on her right now. I think Mordekaiser's bait on this board. And this is what I mean by presenting your strongest board here. I feel like some of you would just leave the Mordekaiser out on your board. I think getting the Ox Force out there is more important, and a 2-star 4 cost. Even if Viego kind of sucks, his like Oxforce proc basically just buys time. And look at all that damage, bro, from Aurelion Soul. A lot of people don't know this. If people don't position around Aurelion Soul, his comets have AoE. So the only reason why we won that fight is that guy didn't spread out his positioning. And we're looking just to get a crit glove here for Bel'Veth. We see a Syndra with a crit glove and a chain. So I want a 5 cost, so when you sell the Syndra, I'm getting 5 gold over that 3 gold or whatever. It's a little gold injection. And we're able to get the, you know, Last Whisper cooking. And at this point, I'm going to start making Aurelion Soul items. So this is what I was talking about. You make your Giga Tank items, then you make your Hyper Carry, then you make your secondary carry items. And we're just pumping levels here, and it's not because I want to pump levels. We're pumping levels because everybody else is pushing 8, and I'm not about to take infinite damage, right? This comp isn't going to get much stronger than what it is right now. And I probably would have been 40 HP if I didn't pump levels here, no cap. So this is like an instance of just paying attention to the lobby. And here's something I don't see people talk about, actually, is I think Aurelion Soul sucks, but 2 Aurelion Souls is actually good. And a lot of it is because the comets re-hit the same spots, and if they're critting, it actually like board wipes. And I don't know if it's a unique interaction or something, but it was like this in the other half set as well. 2 Aurelion Souls is just super good. And if you wanted to min-max, what you would do if like you had a shitload of HP here is you would just make a shitload of Thieves' Gloves for your whole board. You would just keep making Thieves' Gloves for your whole board with the Pandora's Bench. But I kind of wanted to make Giga items for Aurelion Soul here. And I'm going to struggle here looking at the components as well. Because looking here, we don't need Morello because we already have Anti-Heal because Aurelion Soul is passive. So we're going to be making Guard Breaker and Gunblade. And it was windy, so we're always going to put that out on our board. And if you guys see a little bit of lag, I'm sorry about that. I've been having issues with my computer and like some of the recording shit, so I'm hoping I can figure that out recently. And I've been streaming and I've been also being like disconnected. I think it has to do something with Riot's client. They made a post about it recently, so I hope that gets squared away. But the past videos have been fine, so I'm assuming it'll go away. And we position like this, by the way, so we can make the most out of Janna's like Hex. It's like the same thing from like last set where you would have like Oxforce, Aphelios, and all that other shit, and you would stack up like that with Windy Janna. We're just doing the same thing, so our whole board gets windy. Usually you would be going level 9 around 5-5 or 6-1, but we are broke boys, and we are going to continue to donkey roll until we hit Bel'Veth 2, because nothing else matters. We really need Bel'Veth 2 here, or like we're just out of the game. Aurelion Soul isn't enough to do it himself, but as you can see, all the mages clumped up, and Aurelion Soul basically one-shot their whole board. Stacking against Aurelion Soul is probably one of the worst things you can do in the entire game. We're just looking for a last item for the dragon. And here's where you guys start thinking, we got a remover, right? So what are we gonna go for? We're gonna go for the Titans, because this is why we built those items in the early game the way I told you, is because we're able to replace these items later on in the game. They'll always be good. So what we can do is you're always going to need healing on Bel'Veth because she's useless without it. So we're gonna put the Hodge on her, and we're gonna put the Giant Slayer on Aurelion Soul. You need healing on Bel'Veth or she just dies. I don't know why. She's one of those units where like, I don't know. Without healing, she's like C tier. With healing, she's like A tier. And as you can see, we got Blitzcrank hooked in the past now. So we're just gonna position her on the Blitzcrank hook, and at this point, I'm just gonna sell the Urgussi because everybody in the lobby right now is just dealing magic damage. So I want to just get in 4 Aegis if I can, because we already have enough damage with Belveth and Aurelion Soul with this Jeweled Lotus. We really just need our team to be able to stay alive. And I really want to greed and hold on to this Urgot, but he's costing us so much gold that eventually I'm going to have to sell him here. I should have sold him last turn. Don't get jebaited by the Rammus 3, it's not worth it. And this is probably one of the worst items we could have made. In my head, I was like thinking, you know, Giga Chad, Janna placement and shit. But in all reality, the locket scales with your level, and since it's a Janna 1, you're getting a shitty locket. We should have grabbed Ionic Spark or something like that for Echo. As you can see, we're just getting meta abused right now. This Oxforce Spellslinger shit is disgusting. You know, I have 3 Aegis in, and my team's still getting slapped up. I don't even think he has any Magic Shred. But it is what it is. The game's never going to be a balanced game. But neither is the MOBA. It's just how it's designed. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be pushing 9 here. Because if we find a Vi or something like that, putting in 4 Aegis is super strong, or putting in another legendary, our board isn't going to get much stronger if we roll here for, what, Alistar? No, it's just not good enough. We need to level up and put in something that's going to push us to the moon. Whether that's a Fiddlesticks, or Urgot, or 4 Aegis, or something like that. And we're positioning so we put our Aegis down on the far right, because when LeBlanc hackers in, you want to have the Aegis unit tanking it. But for whatever reason, my team runs forward so quick that LeBlanc always just one-shots my Janna for some odd reason. We're just looking for tank items. Whatever we can put on Echo, because he's our next strongest unit. He has a shitload of magic resist, and putting something on him that'll help him. I should have reforged this locket by now. Do as I say, not as I do. I'm a human. Not like, but if you look at his top right, dude, the Aurelion Soul is just one-shotting all that clump. And at this point, we're gonna have to start selling like Rammus and these other units and trying to get in like legendaries. And the whole thing is, I wanted to put Fiddlesticks on this Windy Hex, but the issue is if I put him there, my whole units are gonna be trapped in the corner and they won't be able to walk forward. So I think I gotta put him forward more as a CC bot rather than a carry. And I mean, this is with 3 Aegis, man. I get he has like a lot of 3 stars, but I don't know. I feel like if you're itemizing like a whole magic resist board, you should beat the people who are going full, you know, AP, but that's just me bitching, I guess. It doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like if you're versing an 80 board and somebody has like 4 defender in or 3 defender, there isn't 3 defender, but if you're like fully itemizing resistances against a comp, they shouldn't just still waffle stomp you because they're meta. And at this point, we found like another decap. If you really wanted to, I think you should have went decap IE on Fiddlesticks, so at least whenever he casts, you know, you're gonna get like a guaranteed crit. But I was kind of going for the tuber here and going like double decap like Janna, thinking like her tornado with Windy was gonna one-shot the board a little bit, you know. And I suffered because of it. You know, LeBlanc dashed in and she has like laser eyes for my Janna. But I hope this gives you guys a perspective on how to navigate threats a little bit better, and how you want to itemize a little bit. Because even though if you don't get Pandora's Bench and you're not going to get like those perfect items on Aatrox, you can still get 3 tank items, and you're going to want to build your items flexibly so you can pivot them later in the game. So I hope this was helpful, and if you guys enjoy the content, please drop a like and a subscribe. Come check me out on Twitch sometime, and I hope you guys have a good day.